Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all you wonderful, wonderful F1 fans out there, not just in the home of F101, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, but around the world. If you're hearing my voice, it can only mean two things. One, my name is Kelsey, and two, you are listening to the newest edition of F101, and we are going to hop right in to the Singapore Grand Prix. What can I say about this Grand Prix? It was fantastic. It was entertaining. Everything from qualifying to the race to the aftermath to the implications at the end of the race weekend. Oh my God, it was one of those races that you did not want to miss. We're going to hop right into it with qualifying. Antonelli, I mean, oh my God, is he on a rocket all of a sudden? He had a fantastic start to the season. A little bit of what we'll call rookie troubles for the last 5 or 6 races. Mercedes has not given up on him. They didn't give up on his seat. They didn't give up on his driving abilities. They did not give up on him, period. And oh my God, Kimi Antonelli is on a rocket this weekend. It looks like he's been doing this forever. His pace, his intelligence, his patience is one of those things that are just, it's out of a storybook. It's out of the Mercedes storybook. It's igniting the faith again in the Mercedes rookie that maybe one day he will be the number one driver in Mercedes. Not only that he will become a world champion. The only thing that's going to get in his way of greatness in that team is himself and essentially other drivers, which kind of this weekend, he did really, really well. He made it all the way into Q3, which is what you kind of expect of him, but it wasn't exactly easy. Qualifying one, Pierre Gasly, unknown failure in the Alpine. Now, it looked like his steering wheel just kind of turned off. Looks like he had a major power failure. We just don't know what part of the car caused that. We don't know if it's the battery, don't know if it's the PU unit, didn't know if it's kind of wiring, anything like that. There has yet to be any kind of statement from Alpine going, what's happening with the car. 9 times out of 10 and dollars to donuts, they will not tell us what the failure was. They're going to keep it in-house for obvious reasons. They're going to try to get it fixed before the next Grand Prix, but yellow flag comes out. Lance Stroll, does not slow down during the yellow flag. Same with Yuki Tsunoda, Nico Hulkenberg, Bortoleto, all of them. They did not slow down during the yellow flag. Now, normally in a yellow flag, you slow down to the minimum running speed. Double yellow, you absolutely have to, or there will be penalization. And then obviously, if there's a red flag, you have to slow down no matter what. All 4 of those drivers, no slowing down at all during the yellow flag. Now, what's this going to mean? When's the stewards going to give us a ruling? They're not going to give us a ruling until at least race day or the end of qualifying. I think this is, again, another missed opportunity from the officials going, it's a pretty slam dunk issue. You were speeding or weren't you speeding? There's only 4 drivers to check. Give it a minute and a half, 2 minutes times 4 drivers. You can do it in between Q1 and Q2. There is enough time. And yet again, it is too complicated for these stewards. They're going to have to wait until the end of qualifying. It's just, again, it's another big miss of something that should be really, really simple and really follow through, and they can't do it. My suggestion, instead of having different stewards per race, have the same 5-10 stewards and just divide them up between the races. It's pretty simple. Be on a 4-week rotation. It's long enough of a season that it's complicated enough with the rules, regulations, changes, and penalties that you need your officials to be on the ball at all times. This season specifically, the stewards have been lackadaisical. They have not been consistent in their ruling, or it takes them forever to get a simple ruling done. Next season, 2026, FIA, F1, if you're listening out here, get 10 different stewards, 2 stewards per race, and just rotate them through. Have them sit down in the off season going, put them through a class, put them through courses. I don't really give a shit. If you guys are the 10, here are the rules and regulations. Put them through film, put them through testing, put them through every kind of situation you can possibly think of. Get the rules down right, get them down pat, make sure everybody is on the same page. We're going to go through the bottom 5 of Q1. In 20th, Pierre Gasly with the car failure. 19th, Esteban Ocon. Colapinto in 18th. Lance Stroll in 17th. Bortoleto in 16th. Hey, we're off to another great weekend for Lance Stroll. He absolutely has not crashed his car yet. Congratulations. You're almost up to 3 full races, buddy. Good job. Looking into Q2, Max Verstappen. Another fast weekend. I don't know what they've done to Red Bull. They had stated, and Max had stated, that they weren't going to win another race all season long. They weren't even going to compete. Well, at least going into this weekend, they are definitely competing. They're looking super fast. if there's going to be at least two teams that may put a strain on Red Bull this weekend, it's always going to be McLaren unless something tragically wrong goes, and then Mercedes. Mercedes is just, they're on a roll, they're on the ball, they're gaining momentum just like Red Bull on McLaren. Now, are they going to pass McLaren? Probably not. But this kind of momentum and this kind of energy change in the team is definitely that is needed between both teams just to carry them into 2026, feeling more positive about the changes they've made, giving them good encouragement for the changes that they're going to make in 2026 as well. So Max Verstappen, absolutely 100% just roaring through everything. Yuki Tsunoda, on the other hand, I mean, he's trying his best. He really is, but he doesn't seem as much of an empty seat in Red Bull in the last couple of races, but he's still, in my opinion, not contributing the way that he should. He really needs to score massive points in the rest of the season in both the sprint racing and the regular races, just for people to consider him worthy, essentially, of him keeping his seat in Red Bull for the 2026 season. Is this going to happen at the pace he's going? I'm going to say no. At the pace that he's going, the only way that I can possibly see him keeping his seat for the 2026 season is Isaac Hadjar going, hey, you know what? I need another season in Racing Bulls. I want to see what this new car looks like. I'm not ready for this opportunity yet. Essentially, buying Yuki at least one more year. Now, if Isaac Hadjar does do this, if he does tell Red Bull, hey, I'm not ready yet, is this going to be a detrimental decision on his part that will take him out of the Red Bull race, out of the seat? Only time will tell. But Yuki Tsunoda, I mean, you're trying your best, but you don't even make it out of Q2. You're not really helping your team all that much. Another driver who's not exactly having the best weekend, but somehow making it into the top 10, Charles Leclerc, struggling this weekend. Now, I can't quite tell if it's him or if it's the machine or if it's a combination of both or if it's just the circumstances of the track. Singapore is a very tight track in some spots. There are places to pass, only about 3 or 4 out of, I think it's like 21 turns, but it demands a lot from these drivers. Now, it demands a lot because one morning it can be plus 38 degrees and sunshine and totally dry, and then it just absolutely pours during the night and wipes away and eliminates all the progress you've made in rubbering in the track. Well, something along that line does happen when it comes to this weekend. These guys, there was a heat warning in Singapore. Everyone's wearing their cool vests, their icy vests, something like that to keep them focused, keep them cool, and keep them from having dehydration and heat stroke. And it seemed like the weather this weekend, it was just getting to Leclerc. He ends up clipping the wall, driving a little panicked, it looks like. He clips the wall. He doesn't, demolish the car. He doesn't bring out a yellow flag, but it's showing a little bit of stress in his driving. It's not the way that Leclerc normally drives. He's usually calm, cool, collected. He competes with the best of them. He makes good decisions. Except for this weekend, I have no idea what's going on, but it looks like he's definitely struggling in the Ferrari this weekend, or it can just be struggling in general. Now, I really hope that he's able to collect himself for the weekend and do the job that we all know that he can do. He's got the capability. God knows he's got the machine underneath him. So, Leclerc, take a breath, calm down, get through qualifying in general, and you'll be just fine. A team that's going to be just fine, I keep harping back to it. It's a Mercedes weekend. Q2, it's Russell versus Antonelli. These guys are going lap for lap, time for time, and they're really pushing each other in a very constructive way. It's not just, I call it Russell versus Antonelli, but it's in the most friendly version that I can possibly say. It's definitely beneficial for Mercedes that these guys are going back and forth the way they are. They're both very fast this weekend. They're both on rails. The car is responding the way it's supposed to. Tire temp for them, tire degradation for them. It's really on point. Both of them doing really, really well. The only downside to this fantastic qualifying session that they're having is it doesn't always transfer over when it comes to these guys. Normally we've seen George Russell have a fantastic qualifying and then not throw it away, but lose concentration or something. He gets disqualified for weight, or it's just a lot of unnecessary and unlucky circumstances that he ends up coming into when it comes to qualifying from qualifying to race day. But it looks like this might be the exception rather than the rule this weekend. He's on point. He's competing well. He's being the team leader that he needs to be. And don't forget, he still doesn't have a contract for 2026 when it comes to Mercedes. Now, is this a little bit of fire underneath his ass to make sure he drives very well? Is this to see how he deals with a lot of off-track pressure? We haven't really seen or heard a lot of George Russell being involved with any kind of off-track drama with the team or his teammates or anything like that. It seems to be really, really smooth sailing at Mercedes, which is obviously a good thing for Mercedes, the fans, and the drivers. But at the same time, when you are that copacetic in a team, it can encourage a little complacency. It can encourage a little bit of, well, no matter what happens, everyone's got my back. There's never going to be any drama. We're all great, blah, 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 which is true to a certain extent. But without a little adversity, you never are able to grow. And I think this is the adversity that they're giving George Russell right now, going, we know you're a fantastic driver, but we're going to make you sweat a little bit just to see if you will actually improve under the stress or feel like, oh, I have to prove myself that much more to Mercedes to get that contract extension. Because if he does, and when he does get that contract extension, it's going to be a multi-year and it is going to be heavy. He is going to get some money from Mercedes. But Toto Wolff is very smart. He's not just going to give a new contract to any of his drivers, no matter how good the driver is. You got to prove it day in and day out. And that's what they're making George Russell do at this point. Let's get into the top 5. These are the 5 drivers going from 15th to 11th that did not make Q3. Yuki Tsunoda in 15th, Liam Lawson in 14th, Carlos Sainz in 13th, Alex Albon in 12th, Nico Hülkenberg in 11th. The surprise, in my opinion, of the driver that is out in Q2 is like Alex Albon in 12th. He's on such a roll. He is so confident. He's really connecting with his vehicle. He didn't have a bad drive. He wasn't super slow. Nothing happened. Not a ton of oversteer or understeer, which is what Williams is generally having to compete with all year round, just kind of like everybody else. He just wasn't fast enough. He got out qualified by Ollie Behrman. Now that was like the major surprise. If there's going to be a circumstance where you're sitting there going, what happened to Albon? Like what's going on? It's when you get out qualified by a Haas. Now Haas is on a roll this year. They are competing for the points in the Construstore Championship. But just from the experience that Alex has got, I kind of would have expected him to at least out-qualify Behrman and make it into Q3. So now let's get right into Q3. Jesus, what can we say about Q3? George, we're gonna keep going with the George Russell theme. George Russell pushed himself more than I've ever seen him push himself in the 2025 season. He knows it's important. It's been reported that he's not super happy with the terms from Mercedes, which means it's not enough money or it's not prestigious enough. So he's proving that he's worth what he's asking for, okay, which makes sense. And which means he's going to take a little bit more risks than he normally would in qualifying, especially Q3. You want to out-qualify your partner. You want to out-qualify the other teams, especially Red Bull, who's on a streak, especially McLaren. It's not really helping anything if you beat McLaren at this point. All they need is either same thing, a first or a third victory, a fifth or a sixth, or they need to outscore Mercedes by like 30 something points, right? So essentially, if they finish in the top 5, they're going to win. Okay. So, but you want to prove yourself. George Russell pushing himself to the very, very limit at the end of Q3, brushing the wall, possible damage. It's the same kind of bump that I think it was Piastri that gave himself last weekend. It was enough to see the car shake, no damage, no nothing like that. But it's kind of odd that to see this mistake from George Russell, but he's just on the sword edge so close all the time in the 2025 season. It actually boosted him forward. It gave him an advantage, which is kind of weird to say that once you clip the wall, but it gave him a little bit of a boost. Head in the sector by 7/100ths of a second. Ends up getting pole in Q1. Spoiler alert, we're just going to rush to it. But you can see it's definitely not desperation. It is calculated risk that George Russell is taking this weekend because he knows that he's got something to prove that he absolutely has to do it. Now, Kimi Antonelli, on the other hand, he also has something to prove. He's a good rookie. He's a valuable rookie. It's still his rookie season. I don't think he's reaching for the stars too much. He qualifies in the top 5. He is showing Mercedes and the rest of the grid that, hey, it's not just George Russell that can pull this kind of timeout. I can also do it on a day-to-day basis. He's showing the grid that not only on a day-to-day basis, but he can tangle with the rest of them, that he can potentially outscore and out-qualify even the top drivers. Perfect example, Lando Norris, again, not having a wonderful qualifying weekend. Just fighting the car. It's just a lot more oversteer than you can expect, a lot more understeer where you don't expect it. And just Norris does not seem happy in the Mercedes the last couple of races. Now, have they changed something? Every team does a little bit of tweaking, but we're only 6 races left. So at this point, your car is pretty much your car. Now, is Lando happy with the car? Is he happy where it's sitting? Is he happy with the performance? He says yes. His driving style and body language is kind of saying no at this point. But you're not exactly going to, or at least you shouldn't, air out your dirty laundry in front of everybody else on the paddock, especially on TV. But it's still a little weird to see a McLaren driver just not having the best day ever. Now, when I say it's not the worst day he's ever had. Still qualifies in the top 10, still qualifies in the top 5. It's not a horrible day. It's considered and classified a horrible day for McLaren, but I think that's just the point of succession where they're at right now. Where a top 5 performance, it's great, but the expectation is always 1 and 2. Always 1 and 2. Now swap the drivers around, get into that kind of gray area. It doesn't really matter. The team is just being used to being top 5 all the time. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So when there's any kind of falter, the alarm bells start to go off like, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening? Everybody, including myself, just take a breath, relax, look at it constructively. And from a 2020 point of view, like it's not that bad. You're still top 5. There's nothing visibly wrong with the car. It's not super slow on the straights. It was just one of those off days for Norris. Piastri ends up getting in the top 3. Again, not that far ahead of Antonelli, not that far ahead of his partner, but still makes a top 3, sets himself in a good position. So it's one of those, okay, it definitely could be worse for the Singapore Grand Prix. You want to qualify as high as you possibly can. Singapore is kind of like Monaco, but not nearly as bad. There's not going to be a whole lot of passing. It's very strategy heavy. Pit lane stop is about 22 seconds. So you want to make sure that you're not falling for the undercut, not going too long where you screw yourself out of several positions just because you know everyone's going to be so close. There's going to be a bit of a DRS train and you want to be able to time your pit stops properly. You want to go to your own strategy and react as minimally as you possibly can to everybody else. So you want to qualify as high as you can. Top 5, you're pretty much set. It's going to be a good race. It's going to be very interesting to see what McLaren does when it comes to strategy. And if they're actually going to follow through with, hey, we're just going to go after the constructors first, and then everyone else is kind of on their own. Let's go through the top 10. We're going to start from the 10th, and we're going to go to the 1st. Number 10, Fernando Alonso actually went out and raced in at qualifying. He did try his best. It was kind of a half-hearted effort from what I can see. He didn't try super, super hard, but he did go out. He didn't just hang out in the pit lane. So it's nice to see that. 9th in Ollie Behrman, Isaac Hadjar in 7th, Leclerc in 7th, Lewis Hamilton in 6th. Really good duo this weekend. They're racing really well. They're racing consistently. They're kind of on that upswing again. They're not trying to swing for the fences. They're just doing the best they can, and it's starting to work out for them. Number 5 is Lando Norris. 4 is Antonelli. 3 is Piastri, and 2nd is Max Verstappen, and number 1 is George Russell. A little bit of a surprising poll from George Russell. Did he win it outright? I'm going to say no. And there's going to be a couple fans out there that I know they're going to argue with me. But he got pole because Verstappen, Piastri, and Norris couldn't put in the best laps they possibly could. If the general top 3 that have always been the top 3 for this season, essentially, if they could have done the best that their cars could have given them, Russell would have been 4th, right? So he took the opportunity. He put in a smoking good lap. It wasn't exactly a slow lap. It was a good lap, but the rest of the field just wasn't exactly having the best day possible. So that, in my opinion, is why George Russell actually ended up on pole. It's not that he just outraced everybody. So now it's time to race day. It is down to the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix. We're talking round 18, 19 turns, 62 laps, top speed of, oh my God, that's fast, and distance of 4.94 kilometers. It is going to be one of those races that you wish you would have stopped. And there's going to be some very specific reasons why you're going to wish you saw this race and hate yourself if you did. But before we even got started, both Williams disqualified from qualifying, both of them failing post-qualifying checks on their cars. Now, this is very random. This happens to everybody on the grid. You check one car from 18. Let's say they pulled Alex Albon, and they're going to check things like how much gas he had. They're going to check if the skid plate got worn down too much. They're going to check his weight. They're going to check the car's weight. They're going to put them together. You have to be within a certain rate. Okay. What else are you going to check? You're going to check how flexible the rear wing, the front wing, and parts of the cars are. Now, there are rules and regulations on how much each piece can flex. Some pieces can't flex at all. Some pieces are within a certain measure. Now, this is where the issue comes in. And this is generally where if one person fails, so will the rest of the team. So Alex Albon, let's say in this conversation, let's say Alex gets pulled first. They check the rear wing. Now, the rear wing flex is allowed to be 55 millimeters. They went with, they flexed exceeding that regulation. Now, which wing was it? It was the wing that's attached to the DRS system. You are allowed a certain amount of flex to help with aerodynamic consistency and so on and so forth. Alex Albon's car exceeded the 55 millimeter regulation limit. Now that automatically means, and rightfully so, they're going to pull the other car. They pulled Carlos Sainz. Same thing, same failure on the exact same part of the car. The wing in the back for the DRS flexed well above the 55 millimeter allowance. Both cars disqualified from qualification. So now what does this mean? This means you're starting at the back of the grid. Now, if you're going to take a penalty like that, and rightfully so, you might as well just change stuff on the car. So they changed the wing because they had to. They went back to an old wing spec. So Carlos Sainz had the option, and their team took it, that he was just going to take the penalty, and I think he started 19th. Okay. Alex Albon did not take that. His team decided that, well, if we're going to take the penalty anyways, we might as well just put the wing on that we want on this race. It may have been a wrong decision to put on that wing the first time. So what did they do? They took a pit lane start because they added a different piece of equipment to the car. Pierre Gasly did the same thing. He didn't like the setup. They broke Parc Fermé. He is allowed to do that. Pit lane start for both of these guys. Not exactly like a horrible decision for them. You want the kind of race, or you want the kind of setup that you absolutely need to collect information. When you're starting in the pit lane, it's going to be more of a recovery race than we're going to win race. This is a race where they're just going to collect information on what they can do better next time, or how to fix this, how to fix that. It's a data collection race at this point. They may have even put some parts on for the 2026 car just to see how they would react within the rules, obviously, and just collect more data from there. One more thing that's not exactly going to help the race start, it absolutely poured, because this is a night race. Singapore is definitely a night race. During the day, it absolutely poured, washed all of the rubbering off the track. So they kind of are starting from scratch. Now it's still 27, 28 degrees air temperature. I think it was like 32 trackside. The tires are still going to be in a really good position, but what you would normally start on for a medium, you may now want to start on a soft or a hard, depending on how much rubbering in it will actually take. This will also affect the pit lane strategy as well, because you may have to pit 3 or 4 laps earlier or 3 or 4 laps later than you really wanted to. Yeah, it's kind of only time will tell. And the one thing that's going to happen with this course, when you need as much traction as you have, it's going to be the first corner. The first corner is always, if there's going to be something that happens, it's going to be the first corner. And it did not disappoint for the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix. I tell you what, oh my God, it involved Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and Max Verstappen. Now, when I say those 3 names, you're automatically assuming, and it's not a bad assumption, somebody crashed, somebody's out, some big penalties are going to happen, which is not an unfair assumption, except for it's not exactly what happened this time. Max Verstappen this time did absolutely nothing wrong when it comes to these guys. He was out front. So how to best put this? Lando Norris bumped into Oscar Piastri quite visibly after going into the back end of Max Verstappen. Now, no tires were busted, a little bit of damage on a wing, but there were no flats. There was no major crashes. Nobody ended up in the wall. So here's what happens here. Close your eyes, picture this. Max Verstappen is right in front on your left-hand side. Lando Norris is right behind Max again on the left-hand side. Oscar Piastri is making a move far right to pass Lando before he inevitably has to slow down to get behind Max. He knows this is going to happen, but he's going to take the challenge. He's going to try this out. Because Lando hit the back end of Max, he ended up bumping quite significantly into the side of Lando Norris. Lando or other way around. Lando went into the side of Piastri. Again, nobody crashed, but Piastri lost position and definitely had to slow down. Now, Oscar asked, and I think quite reasonably so, because McLaren opened this door so goddamn wide you could drive an F1 car through it that's in the tractor trailer that's on the plane. He asked what I would think very politely going, hey, are we going to switch these positions back because of the collision? Because Lando bumped into me, I had to slow down and I lost my position that I would have had naturally in the race. And he's waiting politely for the answer. And he's waiting and he's waiting. And obviously his race engineer's like, hey, we're going to check, we're going to get back to you. And then a couple laps later, and he's still asking again. He's like, hey, what's going to happen here? And then the call comes down. No, we're not going to switch positions. We're just going to continue racing, stay focused. You can do this. And from there on out, from that end of that radio call, Piastri's night, it didn't get horrible. Nothing super bad happened. It was just, he was not in his head in the right way. He was in his head, definitely. And he asked a couple times. He said, this is totally unfair. He made references to a couple other races where rightfully so. Last race, hey, Norris had a really bad pit stop. Can you slow down, let him pass? That kind of bullshit where Piastri is playing the team game because somebody asked him to. Now he's asking for, his turn to be not necessarily preferred, but hey, this should be the way that we're going. Every time something happens to Lando, I have to do this. Well, hey, something happened to me. Lando should do this. And essentially his call was ignored. Okay. Now we're going to come back to this. This is definitely going to be the story of the race when we come back to it. So keep that in mind. By this point, lap 10, early DRS train. And we're talking from 8th to the end of the group. It's nothing but DRS, which made it a little bit of a boring race. Now you're thinking, okay, top 5. We've got Max in there. We've got Russell in there. We've got Norris, Piastri, Antonelli, the top 5. They switch positions, but still a top 5. They're going to race really, really, really well. It's going to be spectacular. Not even close. Because there's nothing in front of him, and because whatever Mercedes did, George Russell, after 10 laps, is already 5 seconds ahead of everybody. He is literally cruising to, right? And so we're just going to skip to the end. Yes, George Russell wins the race. It's his second in his career. Yay. Happy. Good for you. All the listeners out there that know I'm not exactly a Russell fan, but hey, he did a good job. He didn't screw anything up. He did get a little close to getting a little bit of pressure from Max Verstappen near the end just because how the tires were wearing out, but he ends up holding on to it. Okay, congratulations. Let's get over it. Pit stop, 22 seconds, right? Because it's a 22-second pit stop and George Russell is way out by himself, driving his own race, dealing with traffic quite well, I must say. When he hit traffic, everyone got out of his way appropriately. He did really, really well in traffic. Okay, let's switch to the other Mercedes seat. Kimi Antonelli, he was hunting Leclerc because they were so close. Essentially, their pit stop times and their pit stop strategy was almost exactly the same. This is giving the definite advantage to Mercedes. Kimi Antonelli, he's hungrier. He's got this sixth sense about him when he's hunting. It seems to be when he's hunting a Ferrari, he just automatically knows what the strategy is, where they're going to go, and how he can change it. He ends up passing Leclerc quite easily once he finally does it. Total kudos to Leclerc, his driving defensive ability. It's like the second coming of Checo Perez. Both of them really, really, really good defensive driving. But at some point when you're not fast enough, you're just not fast enough. And in this case, Leclerc definitely, he ends up dropping a couple of spots actually, but he is definitely not fast enough to keep up with Antonelli, unfortunately. And it was just one of those races where, you did the best you can, man, but you got passed by an absolutely monster of a rookie driver. A rookie driver who's having not horrible, but a very challenging weekend. Isaac Hadjar, just third race in a row, engine troubles, and you can obviously hear his frustration. The Racing Bulls is really good. They're on a roll. They're catching some points. They're doing really good things. They need to get this engine situation sorted out for Isaac Hadjar. Liam Lawson's doing his best as well. He's trying to catch some points. He misses out this time, but Isaac Hadjar's always in the hunt. He's always in the top 10. He's always in the points until something out of his control absolutely happens. At some point on the radio, he didn't have third or fourth gear. So you got to go from first to second to fifth, just jump it. And it's like the engine sputtering. It's not keeping up. It's not doing what it's not. It's doing what it's not supposed to, essentially. It's almost like they don't have any engines left. They're on the last leg. What can you possibly do? But to Isaac Hadjar's credit, he is driving like a man beyond his years. He's frustrated. Yes, you can hear the frustration and his disappointment in his voice, but it's only in his voice. The way he drives that car is still very intelligently. It's very mature. He's not taking any necessary risks, but he's still pushing the car as best as he totally can, dealing with what he's got. He just ends up missing out on the pole from Carlos Sainz at the very, very, very end of the race. Carlos ends up passing him, more points for Williams, but a little heartbreaking for Hadjar just because he tried so damn hard to stay in the top 10 and he was losing spots like there was no tomorrow. He was getting passed quite easily on the straightaways just because he didn't have that engine power. He didn't have that consistency. In the corners is where he shone. He knows how to defensively drive as well. It's like they all went to the same school. Very, very well done. Hi, Isaac. Sorry you didn't get any points this weekend. Another Red Bull associated car that's not doing what it's supposed to, Max Verstappen's car. Like, he complains. Now, we all know Max likes to complain about his car, complain about the driver's conditions every once in a while. Sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not, especially when it comes to his car. I don't think he's ever had a race that I've watched in the last few years that he is absolutely ecstatic about how the car is set up, how it's responding, and all that kind of fun stuff. There's always, always, always something to complain about. Today was absolutely no different. Everything from the brakes to how the car felt to the oversteer, the understeer, like literally everything that had to do with this car was absolutely atrocious to him today. He did baby the crap out of it at some point, not taking a whole lot of pressure with it. The car, the tire life, because the car wasn't acting right, was very, very good. He didn't blow through his tires like he usually does. But it's just another one of those things where the car is performing when it really shouldn't. And it's definitely coming down to the driver. Red Bull has got some serious recalculations to do before the next Grand Prix to try to figure out what the hell they did wrong with it. And that was kind of, by the time they got that all figured out, there was one more spin from Nico Hülkenberg. He ended up going into the runoff area. He misjudged the timing for a turn. I mean, a little bit of a flat spot on his tire, but no red flags, no crashes, no safety cars. It was that way. It was a good race, and it was filled with enough drama that it kind of made you forget that it was a bit of a boring race just because Russell was so far out ahead, and then Max was behind him, but so far out. The top three kind of separated themselves quite far from everybody else, but it was definitely a race to watch the mid grid and the slower cars, I guess you could say with air quotations, the slower cars. But it was definitely an entertaining race that way. Would I have loved Max Verstappen to win? Yeah, obviously. But when it's not your day, it's not your day. Congratulations to George Russell. You did perfectly fine. There was nothing that, impeded you. You didn't sneeze and hit the wall. You didn't have a tire blowout or anything like that. So congratulations, George Russell and Mercedes. So there's one more point I want to bring up, but we're going to go through the top 10, the drivers and the constructors before we get into the point that it's kind of took over the entire race and kind of took away the shine from George Russell's second win. So top 10 for the race. This is your top 10. 10 is Carlos Sainz, 9 is Ollie Behrman, Fernando Alonso in the points, which is great. Lewis Hamilton in 7th, Leclerc in 6th, Antonelli in 5th, Piastri in 4th, Norris in 3rd, Max Verstappen in 2nd, and George Russell in 1st. It didn't really change from the top 10, obviously, just because how the track is laid out. Drivers Championship, we're going to go from 10 to 1st. Nico Hülkenberg is in 10th with 37th. Isaac Hadjar is 9th with 39. Albon's in 8th with 70. 88 points for Kimi Antonelli in 7th. 127 for Lewis Hamilton in 6th. Leclerc is in 5th with 173. George Russell's in 4th with 237 points. Max Verstappen is in 3rd with 273 points. Lando Norris is in 2nd with 314. And Oscar Piastri is still leading the way with 336 points. Constructors Championships, congratulations. I had called it, God knows, 5 races before, but officially, mathematically, McLaren is your 2025 F1 champions with 650 points. Mercedes is in 2nd with 325. Ferrari is now in 3rd with 300 points. Red Bull's in 4th with 290 points. Williams holding it in 5th with 102 points. Racing Bulls is in 6th with 72. Aston Martin's in 7th with 66 points. Kick Sauber is in 8th with 55 points. Haas is in 9th with 46. And Alpine's in 10th with 20 points. Rookie standings are as they are. Kimi Antonelli in 1st with 88 points. Isaac Hadjar in 2nd with 39. Liam Lawson's in 3rd with 30. Bortoletto is in 4th with 18 points. Ollie Behrman is in 5th with 18 points as well. and Colapinto and Jack Doohan are tied for 6th and 7th with 0 points respectively. Now, here is what we get into, and this is going to really set the tone for the rest of the season. Mclearn wins 650 points. They're the 2025 defending World Constructors Championships. That's great. So what do you do when that happens? You take pictures. Everybody takes pictures, right? The whole team, the drivers, everybody, the engineers, Zach Brown was there, all this kind of stuff. Except for Oscar Piastri. And this was televised, and you could see his reaction. When Zach Brown was letting Lando Norris know, hey, congratulations, we've won the Constructors, great race, all this kind of stuff, and then goes to Piastri. He gets about halfway through his explanation, his congratulations, where Piastri just unplugs his radio. Nothing. No response, no emotion, just very cold, very calculated, just pulls the mic out, doesn't want to hear it. Okay? Picture time, champagne time, all this kind of stuff. Yay! Like you do the top 3, they get their trophies, the champagne, the music, blah, blah, blah. And normally, with every other year when the team wins, you see both drivers. One driver up on the podium, the other driver, if they didn't make the top 3, they're with their team on the sidelines, cheering and celebrating, all this kind of stuff. Lando Norris is there with his team, celebrating, cheering, all that kind of stuff with the champagne. Oscar Piastri is nowhere to be seen. Where'd Oscar go? Oscar skipped all the celebrations. He skipped all the champagne. He skipped all the pictures, and he just started doing his his media obligations. And he didn't hide it. It's not like he waited for the pictures to be done and then come out and do it. He was talking to the media while the picture was being taken, while the historic signature picture that's going to be up everywhere is going and taking and being held. It's going to be in Mclearn, and forever and always, when you see the Mclearn 2025 championship photo, they will have one driver in there. They will not have 2. And oh my God, if they airbrush or if they AI put in Oscar Piastri, he'll have an absolute fit. Oscar Piastri, I think it was a bad move from Piastri. Yes, his feelings were hurt because it essentially told everybody, including him, that when something needs to be done for Lando, we expect you to do it. But as soon as you need something and it affects Lando, we're not going to do it. This opens up, and we all knew this was going to happen at some point. It opens up a massive Pandora's box of what are you guys going to do for the rest of the season? If these points get any closer in the drivers' championships, like we're talking, God, not a whole lot of points. We're talking less than 20 points. Like this is between first and second and third type situation. I think all gloves are off. I don't think any amount of apologizing is going to help Mclearn or Lando help Piastri still be a team player. I think because the Constructors is won, it is now officially every driver for himself. I think there's going to be no love lost between these two drivers. I don't think they're going to go out of their way to screw each other over. I don't think it's going to hit that point. But if there's any kind of team orders from anybody, it's just going to be, don't ask me, don't tell me, I'm not going to do it. Because there's going to be, what's the penalty going to be? They both signed contract extensions. They're both loved by the entire world. They know how valuable each other are. So what are they going to do? They can ignore the papaya rules or the team orders or whatever it's going to be. And there's going to be absolutely zero consequence because Mclearn did this to themselves. When you start to ask drivers to help the other driver out, but you don't reciprocate it both ways, it just creates such a toxic work environment in racing. And this is probably as toxic as you're going to see in a very, very long time. Like it's going to be ridiculous. I think with all of this hubbub happening at Mclearn, and what I think is going to happen, it's like, I don't think they're going to run each other off the road. There's not going to be any major crashes, but they're going to hate each other so much, or at least the team orders that they put them in, that somebody like Max Verstappen, somebody like George Russell, maybe even Leclerc, like any of the top 10 drivers are going to start to take advantage of this. They may even, mess with them a little bit going, hey, let's put them in a situation where you have to give some kind of order just to help us out. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be a malicious attempt, but this is still competition. This is still drivers' championship, and these are still adults that are very, very, very competitive. I wouldn't put past any of the drivers, including the McLaren ones, to be, let's take advantage of this. Let's ignore the rules. Let's stretch the rules, anything like that, and see where we end up by the end of the season. Now, is it going to be a massive change? I don't know. Is it going to be massive controversy? I don't really know. We've got 6 races left. We also have 3 sprint races left. There are tons of opportunities and tons of points up for grabs still for each and every one of these guys. The team, the constructor, okay, it's important for the bond, like from 2nd to 9th, from 2nd to 10th, it's going to be very important to catch as many points as possible, right? It's going to be the drivers that you're going to concentrate on. I would not be surprised if you saw more of me for me and less for you type of mentality when it comes to McLaren for the rest of the season. Well, folks, that's it. That's the breakdown of the 2025 Singapore Grand Prix. As always, questions, comments, concerns, let me know in the questions or the comments below. Let me know what you think McLaren is going to do for the rest of the year. Do you think they're going to be able to drive nicely against each other? Do you think that maybe some people are going to be a little bit more hurt than others? Will they even do McLaren orders, papaya orders, team orders at all for the rest of the season? And if they do, will they be ignored? As always, I would like to send a massive thank you from everybody here from F101 out to all of my listeners. Without you guys, I wouldn't be having nearly as much fun as I am keeping everybody updated. In the F1 world, I have so much fun doing this. And hey, maybe one day this can actually be my full-time job. But until then, keep those tires spinning and those engines revving. We will see you when it comes to the next race, October 17th and 19th. Yes, we're at COTA. We're in Austin, Texas. It is the first of 3 sprint weekends. Friday, full practice 1 is at 11:30 a.m. Sprint qualifying 3:30 p.m. Saturday, we've got the sprint race at 11 a.m. qualifying at 3 p.m. And then race on the Sunday on the 19th. It is 1 p.m. I can't wait to talk to you guys then.